by any objective metric, the lowest in history by the end. The lowest. But do people feel that? A little bit. But a lot of people would say, well, you know what? I think my local NHS is really good. But I don't believe that's the case everywhere else. It's got to be terrible. I'm just really lucky. You got to make people feel it, because if people don't feel it, you can have the. I mean, look at the United States. They have the best economy in the world. Biden led by any objective metric a really good economic recovery.
That was him, because Trump was saying, well, we've had a V-shaped
Yes,
recovery.
exactly. But yeah, Biden led by any objective metric a good economic recovery, better than the rest of the world. But people didn't feel that recovery, and that's a difference.
The war in Ukraine and the shift in oil supply to Europe and somehow led to some sort of inflation or something like that. That's my extent of economic understanding. But internationally, COVID or not, gas prices went up for everyone, bills went up for everyone. And people felt as though during Trump, if it was Trump in power, there would have been no war and there would have been no inflation. And I suppose that's a sort of segue into like asking you why you think Trump won this last election.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to offer first hopefully unique perspective, because I used to live in the US and I'm going back to live there permanently in the next year. What I think Trump, I'm going to skip the obvious stuff, like everyone's talked about inflation to death, anti-incumbency, blah, blah, blah. I think the big reason is because Trump didn't win by it wasn't a blowout election. He won by not tight margins, but not comfortable ones either. You know.
Really? Are we going to start dissing his win because it's Trump?
No, I don't know, because Trump has won convincingly. He got 1 million more votes than Harris. But you know what I mean is Biden won by 7 million more votes than Trump.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I mean. In comparison to Biden, which was not, and Biden still wasn't a blowout. You know, he might have got 7 million votes, but the Senate and Congress results didn't reflect that. 1 million votes. It's not.
Well, for Trump, it did. That's what they're saying in the media. They kept banging on about Trump now has everything, so he can pass any law he wants without fighting anyone or groveling or negotiating. He has whatever, both the House and the Senate, the Congress.
Which is also not true, but
it's not true.
Well, he's got a majority in Congress, the House, by about 1, and think how disunited American politics is. Yeah. A majority of 1 is basically a majority of 0, really. The amount of, Republicans are crazily disorganized. They got rid of their own Speaker of the House at the last House. In fact, the last Republican.
Didn't they also lose the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi?
They did, but then obviously they won Congress enough seats to get a Republican speaker, but they ousted their own Republican speaker, and then the Republican House was the most unproductive House in history, the last election. So, but anyway, my point being that I think a lot of people have forgotten what Trump was actually like. Trump is a lot better when he's the opposition, because when he's doing, he's very good at throwing stones. He's not very good at defending himself because Trump doesn't have the solutions. He's very good at channeling that anger, but when he's the thing, he's the government, it's very difficult. So I think a lot of people just honestly, it's been four years since Trump. People have forgotten, firstly, what the government was actually like, and secondly, the Democrats' main things that they're talking about, democracy, abortion. For a lot of people, they can't afford to eat. That don't matter. So a lot of people remember in Trump's time the economy was better. So Kamala Harris saying vote for me to save democracy. Well, great, democracy is great, but I can't eat. I think that's a massive thing.
I've got
fair enough, but even I just want to quickly provide my 2 cents.
Go for it.
I think the reason people voted for Trump, even the first time and now, is a similar thing. I think you mentioned anti-incumbency, but what people don't realize is that it's not because they hated the previous guy. The people that voted for Trump, so many of them voted for Obama, so many of them voted for Biden, so many of them thinking there would be change. But they saw the same guy, just a different color, just a different gender, just a different shade, just from a different city, but the same guy come and do the same thing, made the same empty promises. And now he's in the history books. Another career politician. Trump was a complete outsider who, if you look back in the day...
No one would have bet.
If you look back in the day, the United States used to love him. They used to, when you running for president, they used to love him on The Apprentice. They used to have open up all his towers. He might not have been perfect, but his public perception, his image was actually good. People used to like him. But the minute he starts to look like he's winning, all this starts to come out, because he's an outsider, he's not a career politician, he's not connected to so-and-so and so-and-so, So I think that's probably why they voted for him. They wanted somebody who seemed genuine, even if
Someone
he,
that seemed genuine is
even if he
different.
seemed like. And I'll tell you, he's not like he's not got the right stature. He's not got the right, his mannerisms, his behavior, the way he talks, the way he conducts himself. It's not professional. It's not appropriate. It's not mature. But they think, wow, he's genuine. He stopped putting on an act. He's just saying how he feels. He said, Hillary Clinton said something like, "Oh, you can't run the prison system or something," or "You can't. You're a bully." Well, yeah, that's because if I was in charge, you'd be in prison because of all the things that you did that you tried to
Yeah.
cover up, like any typical politician.
So yeah, I think that's true in 2016. I think that's definitely
But I think
true.
that's largely
But I
true
don't think
for
that's true
20
now because Trump is
24.
no longer an outsider. Trump is the Republican Party. He controls every single lever of power in it. Trump has been in politics for over a decade now. That is not an outsider anymore.
I wouldn't say that.
Trump. I
But
mean, he has been in 2016 to now.
he was
that's
president for 4 years, but he's not been like.
It's been
never used to be
8
Secretary of
years,
State or-
almost 10 years, and he had the highest position of authority, and he had the whole national. I mean, the thing is, Trump.
And while he had the highest position of authority, they could not stop but do anything to try and get rid of him. The minute he got in there, impeach, 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 look for everything. Russia conspiracy. What they're saying, he went to Putin and there were 10 prostitutes pissing on him. Everything they could do to try and get rid of him, arresting him during an election, which correct
He
me if
wasn't
I'm
arrested
wrong,
in an election.
during an election. Yeah,
It was after he wasn't arrested at all.
or just not during an election, or during his campaign,
Yeah.
during the Mar-a-Lago
he
and
was
the
arrested.
for things. When I looked into it, it was for something to do with how he stored documents or why he even had the documents. You just think he's a former president; he can get whatever document he likes. If he stores it properly is one thing, but it's like it seemed to people as though no matter what, they just wanted to get rid of him from the moment that he got in.
Even
And
the
now that-
assassination attempts.
And now that he's gone, and the assassination attempt, I think people looked at that and they said they're trying to get rid of the person that the people want, not the person that the politicians.
I mean,
put in
maybe
front of our face.
some people, but I
But
still
that's what I
think
think.
the anti-incumbency thing is the bit because at the end of the day, if you're really wanting a change, Trump's not a change. You've seen what he's like, and in fact, most American voters last time got rid of him. So do you really think getting the same guy in charge who 4 years ago you decided, you know what, this guy is not great, we're going to get rid of him, and Biden won his election by the biggest majority of popular vote in the U.S. history.
Really?
Yeah, he won 71 million.
No, you're wrong. That's absolutely wrong. No.
The highest majority.
Al Gore and Bush was the highest majority. No.
No, I'm talking about as an individual. Biden won 71 million. No presidential candidate has won with 71 million votes before.
Trump got similar number, but not far off.
No, Trump's on like 65
That
maybe.
was the highest record
Trump-
voting because of it was after COVID, because of the BLM riots.
But
That society was so galvanized.
my
that-
point being that like people were so like Biden won and now they're changing someone else who's the same guy. Trump's not a clean break is my point. And like so
Oh,
I think
yeah.
like
I understand.
because if you were really wanting a clean break, Trump shouldn't have won the primaries. They should have picked someone else who was a clean break. Vivek Ramsaway, someone like that. That guy's a clean break, very different. Ron DeSantis, someone else different.
not in the sense that
Yeah.
they're still career politicians. They're just not trusted because they're a part of the system. Whereas Trump was just a business guy.
But I do think that is a part. I do acknowledge that. Like, I think that is a part of his appeal. I think it's less now, but also Trump has a different appeal too now, which is he can act presidential. Trump is more authoritative now than any years before, so it brings different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
When he goes around, people address him as Mr. President. Trump can argue, if you elect me, I can get things done because I've already been there. It brings different strengths having been the president before,
Yeah.
and especially when as someone who's lived in the US, I've seen in the US there is a greater appreciation than there is here, any other democracy I've been to, of authority, of when I was campaigning in student elections in the US, and I was campaigning against an incumbent for the student union. The current president was terrible. I campaigned against him with one of my friends who was standing for president. A lot of people would tell me, well, we can't vote her out because you know what? She's the current president. I'm sure she has a lot of experience. We want to get rid of her, would we? And I think that's also a lot of an underrated point is Donald Trump has been the president. Kamala Harris is just the vice president, and that is a big difference. Yeah,
But okay, I think I'll have to contest that. And this is where people's trust in the government comes into play. Biden was running for president until his obvious health issues started to creep in that he could no longer deny.
yeah.
It's like they put Kamala Harris there. She didn't run through the primaries.
Yeah,
Nobody
token.
I
nobody
agree.
wanted her there. They just put her in our face. Would it be fair to have somebody like that be president? Because it wasn't.
I think it's a valid argument. You know, maybe there should have been a primary. There probably should have been in retrospect. I don't think it would have changed anything, Mike. I think whoever the Democrats picked would have had a hard time. But could the Democrats have done better than Kamala Harris? Maybe. Obviously, we'll never know now. That's a completely what-if scenario. But
someone-
they could have done better. At the very least, they would have had more legitimacy.
What I'd further argue is that people compare the campaigns. Is that I saw something? It was like one celebrity twerking. I can't remember her name. Megan Thee Stallion. They brought her out on stage while Trump's talking about policies and we're going to remove this and we're going to do this. And they got Kamala Harris as like a just to like, and it's often they do with black people in America. Like they don't campaign to them, they just expect the vote from them. So they got her some famous rapper to start twerking on stage, and it's like, this is who you want us to vote for. Why don't I vote for Trump?
The thing is, if you was like, you know, I think the last election is just, it is a vibes-based election. Same with Trump doing the McDonald's thing. You know, the US is, the election was vibes, because at the end of the day, I'm like, when the objective metric.
They call it popularity contest.
Yeah, it is a popularity contest, especially this election. Let me think. Like Biden had, by all successful metrics, a good economic recovery. Lots of because a lot of people have been coming out the woodworks now and saying, "Oh, Biden lost. You know, Democrats lost because they didn't do enough. They didn't deliver enough. They didn't deliver as much as they could have done if they worked together." But by an objective metric,
I want to close that door.
yeah, cool. By an objective metric, you know, Biden did deliver a lot of things. You know, he saved union pensions. You know, he brought in protecting gay marriage. That's the economic recovery, the CHIPS Act. He revived domestic manufacturing in the United States through that. So Biden delivered a lot for like working class people, but the difference is those people still didn't feel that they'd been delivered upon. You know,
The perception.
yeah,
aspect
the
of
perception
things.
wasn't there that even though because Biden was the first president of the United States in maybe ever, if not 100 years, to ever go on a picket line. Biden spoke on a
What do you mean a picket line?
like a like a striking workers line.
Oh, okay.
So when you go out and strike, you usually stand outside the building and picket with signs and
Yeah.
tell people not to go to work. Biden went on a picket line as a sitting president and gave a speech, a pro-union speech.
Wow.
But you know what? If you look at the polls, there was the Teams Masters, one of the biggest unions in the US, polled their members. 6% were going to vote for Donald Trump. Even though Donald Trump, by an objective metric, I think you can probably guess, doesn't like unions, doesn't like collective organizing, probably against them. In fact, he is. By comparison, Biden there was like a whole huge thing with like union pensions. Biden bailed out union pensions. He gave a speech on a picket line. Clearly the more working class candidate for like unions, but they didn't vote for him. Or vote for the Democrats, or weren't going to vote for him to begin with. So if he stood. And I think that's just it's an interesting thing where you can deliver, but if people don't perceive it or vibes it or have other issues, cultural issues, that's another reason to vote for Trump that's not economic.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, it just shows how multifaceted things can be, and you know, shows that sometimes doing a good job isn't enough. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
about other factors.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that's very true. I suppose then I've got to ask you,
Okay.
because I wanted to ask about the war in Ukraine and different things like that. Don't you think Trump and Biden don't you think they would have had different positions or different outcomes into whether or not we'd have those things going on?
I don't think Trump would have prevented Ukraine because I think it's pretty clear Russia wanted to do that anyway.
But then,
But-
didn't that start happening the moment? Not to say Biden's responsible, and I don't understand this concept of blaming a politician for all the problems in the world, like they pushed some domino down to cause it. But I think I saw it was the moment Trump got in power, Putin was saying, we're ready to negotiate for peace. Hamas was saying, oh, we're ready to negotiate. Like the moment, and he's meeting up with China, you know what I'm saying? The moment these things happen, that he comes into power, it's almost like we feel like it's going to be more. We feel like it's going to be better.
I don't think that. I think it's like perception of because if you look at like the actual issues, it's like Russia was still preparing for war when there's lots of close calls with Russia. You look at like Israel. The only thing I remember Trump ever actually doing on Israel of note was he came up with an Israeli peace plan, but only the Israeli government had oversight over that. So it was basically
Like North Korea.
a Palestinian surrender, basically.
Yeah, what about North Korea actually?
I think that's a fair argument. The only thing is, there's a reason why there wasn't a third time because the North Koreans detected that Trump was doing it for PR reasons, and it wasn't genuine.
What wasn't genuine?
That was their opinion, and because originally there was supposed to be a third summit with Kim Jong Un.
Okay.
The North Koreans pulled out, arguing that they didn't think Trump's attempt was genuine, which may well be true.